everyone. Here we go with a short PowerPoint on who are the bureaucrats. And I'm going to be giving you some information during this PowerPoint that will also be on the test, so you need to listen closely and take notes on what I say, not just on what appears in the PowerPoint. Okay, who are the bureaucrats? They're public servants, and they prefer to be called public servants rather than bureaucrats because it captures how they see themselves and the goal of their job. They're motivated, they're hard workers, they like recognition of the importance of public service. And interesting to note that they also have higher levels of formal education than private sector employees. They also have stricter codes of behavior and have a greater concern for serving the public. They also have high levels of job satisfaction, more so than their private sector counterparts. Okay, I told you I was going to give you a little bit of information that's going to be on the test. An advantage that bureaucrats in the federal government have over the president in the policy-making process is that they usually have continuity, continuous service in the executive branch that the president doesn't have, because the president is only there for 4 years or 8 years, whereas members of the bureaucracy are there administration to administration. They don't leave when a president leaves. They're not tied to the president politically. Another test question is that the fundamental source of power for the federal bureaucracy lies in its ability to set specific guidelines after receiving a general order or mandate from Congress. So Congress passes a law, passes a policy, hands it over to the executive branch to be implemented or carried out. And the people who carry it out are the bureaucrats. And they do have that freedom to set specific guidelines for the law to be implemented. So that gives them a source of power. Another and last bit of information is that most Americans are satisfied with the help received from bureaucrats, even though we hear about complaining about the red tape of the bureaucracy and all of that. Overall, Americans are satisfied with the help they receive from bureaucrats. Okay, now here's a term you've seen in your vocabulary, shadow bureaucrats. Shadow bureaucrats, there are about 23 million of them, work for private business that have received government contracts. So the process of contracting out or outsourcing or privatizing government work just means that the contracts are given to private industry to do the work, and the only difference that shadow bureaucrats have between them and regular bureaucrats is that their paycheck doesn't come from the government, it comes from private industry. All right, next we're going to talk about this lovely guy, Max Weber, who created an ideal model of a bureaucracy. And he did this in order to have industry work smoothly. And he created 5 levels or 5 divisions of a bureaucratic structure. The first is division of labor. You could see this, and bureaucracies exist right where you work. It could be even at a fast food place, let's say McDonald's. And there's division of labor there. There are people who are fry cooks, who are to-go people, who work the counter, who clean up. So you have division of labor at McDonald's. Specialization of job tasks, same thing. You have people who are trained to do specific jobs at the restaurant. Hiring based on competency. They're going to hire upper level management, managers, regional directors based on their ability. Vertical chain of command. So that's like a pecking order. There may be a low level job and a higher level job that you work up to. And standard operating procedures. I'm sure that if you work at a fast food restaurant, there are books or handouts, instructions on how to greet the customers, how to clean the tables, how to sweep the floors, how to make the food, how to assemble the food, all of that. So those are the 5 sections or parts of bureaucratic structure. And like it says in the slide, any organization can be a bureaucracy. Where you work is a bureaucracy, where I work is a bureaucracy here at school. Okay, next we're going to talk about federal bureaucrats. Bureaucrats in the federal government, the national government. It used to be there was the patronage system. Presidents could hire people to work for the government, whoever, whenever, however they wanted to. Lincoln, I don't know if you read this in the book, who was suffering with smallpox, said, send all the office seekers in here. I finally have something I can give them all. So they're always asking for jobs, asking for positions in government, and driving in the day, driving the presidents crazy. The patronage system basically ended after Garfield was shot by someone who wasn't happy about not getting an appointment in his administration. This was a seeker of a patronage position. And after that, Garfield died. He died, I didn't know this, of a fatal heart attack brought on by his doctor's attempts to find the assassin's bullet in his body. So I'm sure there was a lot of digging around that caused him to have a heart attack. It's awful. Anyway, needless to say, Chester Arthur, who became president next, wanted not to do patronage anymore. So they created the system, the civil service system. And we're going to talk about the Pendleton Civil Service Act. And we'll go to this and then we'll come back to the Plum Book. The Pendleton Civil Service Act introduced a merit-based civil service system to national government. So there was no more patronage or spoil system. There still is patronage, but not the same. People have to take a test. They have to pass the test, and then they move up the ranks with specific requirements that they must meet in order to move up the ranks in the pay scale. So it went from the spoil system to the Pendleton Act, and now there is civil service reform, but we're not going to look at that right now. All right, I'm backing up to the Plum Book. This is where there is still some patronage in the system. The president can appoint people to about 3,000 top jobs in the federal bureaucracy. And it's not based on ability or skills. It's simply based on people the president wants to give a job to. Maybe somebody who made a lot of campaign contributions. So believe it or not, that's still in place. That still happens. Let's look at the Plum Book. Okay, let's move on. Then there's another group called the senior executives. The senior executives are top managerial, supervisory, and policy positions that link political appointees and civil servants. Political appointees being those appointed by the Plum Book, and civil servants, the worker bees in the bureaucracy. They're hired based on merit. The president cannot fire them very easily. To fire them, the government has to prove that the employee is not performing the job or is performing it poorly. All right, we've talked about civil servants. We talked about the Pendleton Civil Service Act, and that's it. Thanks for listening.